Radio Free 102.3 KJLH. Happy Friday. Good morning. Jambo, Hotep, Hola. I'm Dominique DiPrima. As I'm approaching the microphone, I'm asking for blessings from God Almighty, the ancestors, the righteous elders, and Southern California's early morning communications drum is wide open, and we welcome you. Karibu Sana. Welcome worldwide, wherever you happen to be. If you're listening online at kjlhradio.com, I like to start my days with gratitude, giving thanks to God, thanking you, thanking Stevie Wonder for giving us this spot. Let us use it well. Anthony, what's up?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm blessed. What's going on?
So I'll be quick. When I was on my way home from work yesterday, I caught the tail end of Tammy Mack's show, and they were talking about the girl that got shot and what OJ had said. And somebody had called in and said that police shouldn't be able to work in black neighborhoods if they haven't lived in the neighborhood. Well, an issue with that is that us as black people, we're constantly telling people not to join the police departments and that it's not a good idea and you shouldn't join the system that tries to oppress you. And
right.
The looks that I get when I tell people that I'm pursuing law enforcement, I get some bitter looks. So it's kind of like,
I can understand.
What do you want? You know,
I can understand why they give you the looks, and I can understand how hard that must be for you. But the problem with that is that we've now seen a couple of studies that show that black cops shoot and kill black people even more than white cops. So it's like for many, and I'm sure this is not going to be you, Anthony, but for many officers of black, Latinx, Asian, they become blue when they put on the badge, and they do not necessarily reflect the values of their ethnicity or their community. And because you brought up the question of where people live. So what do we do about that, Anthony?
You know, I don't have an answer, but I definitely do agree. I can see people that are minorities, black, Hispanic, Asian. I can see them definitely getting complacent, and I guess I would say maybe trying to fit in with the fellow white officers, or becoming blue, as you say.
Yep. So I think it's more than complacent. I think it's what you said second, trying to fit in, right? Yeah, it's like when we have to prove ourselves even more. I mean, KRS-One wrote a song about it. Black cop, black cop, black cop. So how are you going to make sure you're different, Anthony? I mean, you're going into a system. See, that's the thing. I think, as Connie Rice said yesterday, sure, there are psychos in every profession. There's bad cops, but the problem is a bad system that gives us different outcomes with the same training between black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods. Different outcomes with the same training between Micaiah Bryant, who was 16, and Dylan Roof. Dylan Roof kills 9 people, gets taken to Burger King. Micaiah Wright has, is heavily armed. Micaiah Wright has a steak knife and is 16 and winds up dead. Same training, different outcomes. What do we do about that? What are you going to do? How can you keep yourself from getting caught up in that? I hope we have we always have cops listening.
I agree, though.
I want to ask the cops to call in. When are you good? Are you in the academy? What are you doing to pursue law enforcement right now?
I'm in the process. I have a job offer from LAPD. I already did my my interview. I'm kind of holding myself up right now because I got some COVID weight to lose. I got to work out. But once you pass the interview, if you do get on the interview, then they're pretty much pursuing you pretty hard. So they've been calling me to work out with me to get me ready for the academy. So that's kind of what's holding me up right now, is really just getting past the PFQ test so I can get in the academy.
Okay. Well, so you might want to join Coach E on Saturday. He's virtual this week, but next week he'll be live at Kenneth Hahn Park. But you know what, Anthony? I hope that you will. There's a great book called Cast.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about it. I wanted to check it out.
That would be a good thing to read. That would help you to put things in perspective. Because I think some of it, I mean, for you to go into a system that was created as a legacy of slave catchers and has a consistent record of oppressing and killing black and brown people, you're going to have to really work on your mind, right?
Yeah.
And clearly you want to, so that's dope. I like that. I think it's hard, though. It's going to be challenging, and I know there are people. I know some that are committed to that. Connie Rice brought up Tingarides, who runs that community policing unit, but it's a tall order. How do we reimagine policing? And I think new people coming in like you can make a difference.
Right. Two things. You said the book is called CAST, C-A-S-T, or how is it?
It's, I have it right here. It's things drop, C-A-S-T-E by Isabel Wilkerson, C-A-S-T-E. It's called CAST, The Origins of Our Discontents. They have it at SO1 Books.
All right. And the last thing, I think maybe when you're outnumbered is maybe when people feel like they need to fit in with the other officers. I guess when there's not a big abundance of black people that have the same mind as you in the departments, maybe you just kind of feel defeated and you're like, well, let me just fit in and get to retirement. Not an excuse to, fit in and follow bad officers, but I think the low numbers.
But it's not the bad officers, it's the bad system.
Yeah. Okay.
We can all. Well, let me say. I think you're right. It's both, Anthony. I would hope that if you were there when Derek Chauvin had his knee on that dude's neck, that by that dude I mean Mr. Floyd, that you would say, hey, he's handcuffed. Enough.
Yeah.
But it's not just feeling defeated. There's pressure. I mean, the stories of these officers and what they go through when they do stand up is quite chilling. Let's go to Terry from Los Angeles. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Dominique. I heard the young man that said that he was going into the police academy or going to hire for the police department, and it just made me remember one of my coworkers. I'm in nursing, and he's a nurse, and he wanted to be a police officer. Really, that was like he felt like that was his calling. So he applied for the police department, and he actually went through the process of asking many of his coworkers for recommendations. I even wrote him a recommendation. A lot of people wrote him a recommendation, but he said that when he went through the interview process, the questions that they were asking him, if he would keep the blue line, and they were not liking his answers because he was that type of person, I guess, that would not do that. If the situation came up and he felt it was not right, I guess not going the blue line, that's what he would do. He wasn't that type of person. So at the end of the day, they basically told him that he was not police material. So it just makes me wonder, after he went through the whole process, I looked and said, maybe it was a good idea that you didn't go into the police department. It just made me wonder about the police, the whole, what people are talking about. So I just wanted to make that comment.
I'm surprised they would ask that question outright like that. That's really surprises me.
He tried 2 police departments, and his he had a cousin, I think, that was in the police department, and his cousin basically told him, man, just he's not that type that will go the blue line. He would judge each situation based on that situation, what was right and wrong. But
right, which is obviously the right thing to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But
it's funny, Terry. My brother applied to be an officer in San Francisco, and he was rejected. I don't know why exactly, but it surprised me because my brother speaks 4 languages fluently.
Wow.
And he's relatively fit. He takes martial arts. It surprised me.
Well, that's probably why.
Or some family ties. Could be some about that.
Well, I hope and pray for that young man that's going into it. That I wish him well. But when I heard that he tried a couple times, and he really wanted to be a police officer, but maybe it was a good thing because he was just not that type of person for cover-ups. He wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a good point. When was this, Terry? Do you remember?
About 2 or 3 years ago, he decided to go further in nursing.
Well, to Anthony's point, that's the guy who was becoming an officer. Mm-hmm. There are some things besides our attitude that often prevent black people from getting on the force. Credit scores are taken into account, and I don't mean to be stereotypical, but a lot of us, need to work on that. And sometimes, past use of or current use of cannabis, even though it's legal in the state, that's a thing that would eliminate you. Even though you can drink and use steroids, which doesn't make any sense because those are more likely to make you belligerent and violent. But those are things that I remember interviewing Charlie Beck when he was chief of police and asking him about that. And he said they were working on changing the requirements around credit. And by the way, that's not just black people. That's, other communities of color that have those issues as well, that are putting up barriers which might not make sense. Whereas some of these folks need psychological profiling for their aggression that is not necessarily being done to weed those folks out.
But with nursing, you're kind of, we're kind of weeded out too because we can't have certain things either in our files. Like we cannot, anytime we go through the process of where if we run a red light, you gotta, if you get those type of things. We
run a red light. I could see if you were addicted to pharmaceutical drugs, since you're going to have,
well, that's what
since you're going to have access to them. But run a red light. When would you be doing that?
You have to report. From what I don't know if they're making.
All they do in ambulances is run red lights.
I don't know if they're making us do that anymore. But a few years ago, that we'd have to report that to the Board of Registered Nursing, and so we get caught for stuff. So it couldn't have been that, because if you have any priors and stuff like that, I remember when I was in nursing school, and it was my first year, the teacher told us at the end of the day, it was like my first class, she said, just letting everybody know, if you have any priors or anything that you wanted to discuss before we go any further, meet me after class. About one-fourth of the class went to the back of the room because you have to be cleared. So that's what I'm saying with him. It could not been anything like that, because I think it was just questions.
I guess I won't be a nurse. I mean, not that I run red lights all the time, but I can think of a few things.
But that's what I'm saying. It couldn't have been that, because we and just like how they were saying about the police, like if you get fired, you can go other places and get hired, but our background follows us, with the board.
Right, and that's what needs to happen.